Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
Okay, so what we're going to do today is a pretty simplistic buy versus rent scenario.
Right.
And all we're trying to get you to do in this is point out a couple things, because we've had people say, the reason we can't buy is because, I can rent a house for $2,200 a month, but to buy the same house, it would be $3,000. And I can't afford $3,000. I can only afford the $2,200. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about a scenario that could happen. It could be a current scenario, and talk about the benefit of buy versus rent. And in some cases, it certainly is smarter to rent, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So if you're in a declining market, or if you're renting a multi-million-dollar house for pennies, then yes, of course it makes sense. Yeah. But in most instances, we think that it's a little closer. And that's what we're going to illustrate now.
Okay, so first of all, I'll put this up on the screen. Now, so the first scenario you see is the rent is $2,200 in market. And that's, I think, pretty close to national rents, about $2,200. Mm-hmm. Now, what we did is we grabbed some numbers and threw them in a mortgage calculator and an interest rate deduction and mortgage interest rate calculator and pulled these numbers out of here. Okay, first of all, this is for a loan amount of $400. Doesn't matter what the house is, because you're borrowing $400. The house could be $400, it could be $500. You put 20% down, but all that matters here is you're borrowing $400,000. Okay, so you could say it's an FHA loan, whatever. Okay, the interest rate we picked was 6.75 because that's an average rate around now. It's actually less if you're doing VA or FHA or something like that, but we just picked a number. Okay, now with those two numbers, your principal and interest would be about $2,490, just under $2,500 a month. And then you would also have taxes, insurance. We just picked not Texas or New Jersey or Massachusetts. We just picked a 1% and normal homeowners insurance. So your monthly payment ends up being $3,000. That's what you would pay for this $400,000 loan amount, 6.75%, right? So up front, it looks like it's $800 more, right?
It does.
Okay. Now, obviously, there are other things about buying a house that you may potentially have to pay for, but we're not like, I have to pay the HOA and things like that. We're not talking about that right now, okay? We're just going to talk about the generic stuff. Okay, we get two benefits when we buy a house. The biggest benefits that...
so what are three benefits, but okay.
Okay, well, tell them the three benefits, because we put numbers to them.
Okay, so three financial benefits, and that's not considering the benefits that are outside of finances. So the three financial benefits are, number one, you get to build equity.
Oh, right. Didn't even put that in here. Right. Okay. So if the house is worth $500,000 someday, mm-hmm. or if it's...
No. Okay. So number one is you get to build equity. Number two is appreciation. That's where you're talking about.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So you get to build equity with your payment, because part of your payment goes against that $400,000 every month. Principal
reduction.
Right. And then you get to participate in appreciation over time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the third one is the mortgage and the mortgage interest tax deduction and the property tax deduction on the federal level, possibly on the state level if you live in a state that has income tax.
Right. Okay. So what we did is we went into a calculator. Mm-hmm. Now, the assumption here is that your marginal rate is 25%. This is the highest, because remember, when you take tax deductions, it comes off the highest rate. So if people say, my average rate's only 8%. Well, ours is kind of the same too. But at the top end, it's like 30. It's super high number, mm-hmm. because every dollar you earn on the end is taxed at that highest rate. So we took the 25% number, which is, I think you have to make $90,000 a year for that, right? Which is, maybe you have to make that to be able to buy a $400,000 house. Okay, so that gives you a $700. It actually ended up being $8,400 per year, mm-hmm. in tax breaks that you wouldn't get. Now, that is also assuming that you're itemizing and you get other deductions. Okay, if this is your only deduction, you're not going to get this, or you'll get a reduced amount based on your tax situation. Because like if you have kids, or if you have a bunch of medical expenses, or if you donate, or you have these other things that you get tax deductions for, this is better for you to buy a house. And if you have nothing, this could be zero, or it could be a smaller amount.
Right.
So
right, because this is judging against your standard deduction just for being alive, right? So you do have to look at that. Of course, everybody's situation is different. This is not tax advice. This is not financial advice. We're just doing an exercise with you guys to kind of show you a glimpse of how this might work.
Okay, and then you do the principal reduction is about $375 a month. So you're actually saving, because at the end of the year, then you go, oh, I filed my taxes. And we're not assuming that you've already told them, oh, I'm going to get this big deduction, and you get more take-home pay every month. Because that's another option, right, Juana? You can say, hey, I'm going to actually have more deductions, and then they take less out of your pay. So more money shows up in your paycheck every month because you're going to pay less taxes at the end of the year. So you actually have more money to pay a mortgage. You don't get that if you rent. You just are paying the rent, right?
Which, that's something to talk with your tax professional about. Most people are going to opt to get more money in their paycheck every month so they can make their financial obligation with the mortgage.
So the number came out to be $1,925 is your effective payment, which is less than paying rent. But people sometimes have a hard time understanding, well, what's a tax deduction? How does that work? Well, at the end of the year, you're going to get $8,400 back. Oh, okay. Well, why would I still not want to pay $2,200? Because you don't get the $8,400 if you pay the rent. You only get this because of the tax deduction.
Not only that, not only do you get the $8,400 back, but remember that $375 goes against that $400,000 loan. So every month you're paying down the loan. So you are building your equity. And then as your property appreciates over time, that's money that you get on the back end when you go to sell a property.
It used to be there was a 6-year rule. It took 6 years to pay down enough principal to sell the house and not have to pay any, not come out of pocket. But that included no appreciation. That was just to cover commissions, title and escrow fees, and everything else. So it was a 6-year rule. And then there was the same kind of rule for refis. If you don't want to refi if you were going to sell within a certain amount of time. But here's another big one. This is the one that we didn't even mention. Juana, interest rate of 6.75%. That's only right now. Let's say you do that. You have two people, siblings. One is renting for $2,200. One is buys the house, and the other sibling goes, "Oh, I can't believe you're paying $800 more a month to me for housing. It's stupid. You're dumb." Okay, and then what happens and let's say the home doesn't go up the next year, but let's say the interest rates drop and interest rates go down to 4.25%. And they go, I think I'll refi this thing.
Right.
All of a sudden, that's going to take that monthly payment probably down below $2,200.
It is. However, your sibling who's renting, their rent went up.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes.
So your mortgage payment went down when you refinanced and their rent went up. If you didn't refinance, your mortgage payment stayed the same, but their rent still went up. So
these are just some things. And this is not tax advice. We're not telling you will get this exactly. No. Your taxes are very custom to you. So you need to go into this decision, and talk to the people, your financial advisors, whoever is doing your tax, and say, if I do this, tell me what this looks like and how this is a benefit for me. There are certainly people who buy houses where the numbers look even uglier, but they say, you know what? It's an investment. I think this house could be worth, it's beachfront. The market is depressed substantially. 2 years ago, these homes were selling for $800,000. I can't believe I'm paying $400,000 for this house, or whatever. I don't know, but there are definitely people who are. If you've bought a house at any time over the last 100 years, right? You've made money, unless literally, unless you bought it exactly like maybe in the month of May of last year, it may not be worth more. We do know that in 61% of markets, year over year, home prices are up.
Right.
Which is, and it looks like if we go year over year from today, it's going to be even higher probably because. So this is just something to think about. In most markets, buying a house is more money than renting, but then you get these deductions, and then you can always refi that 6.75%, and then. Once you get the refi and that payment's low, it's always low. And then the other thing too is you get that rate down below $2,200, and then you can just rent out the house. go buy another house, and now you have a rental house and you may be cash flow zero, but it's appreciating.
Exactly. So somebody else is making that mortgage payment. So we just wanted you to consider this. Thank you for watching. We appreciate it. Please leave us comments. Tell us where you're watching from. Please be nice to one another in the comments. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell, like the video, share the video, and we'll see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.